going on here?
I see the people that run Washington are risking nuclear war or tensions with Russia because they don't want Trump to succeed.
I told that person I was talking about just a moment ago, too. I says, you know, Russia is the least of our worries.
Oh, that's
China
right.
is a bigger threat
Yeah, definitely.
than Russia ever will be.
Right.
And IBM, to name one corporation, has already committed a treasonous act in giving China, back when Nixon, just after Nixon, given China the computer technology that they did, because now China is...
What about the Clintons when they let Chinese scientists go to Los Alamos and download anything they wanted and leave with it?
This happened back with Nixon, when Nixon went into China.
Nixon opened up China at the time as kind of like a counterfront to the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union's gone, and China has now become a kind of a fascist example for the world as far as corporate control or government control of private industry. You can have private industry in China, but it's heavily controlled by the government.
Yeah, because it's not private, actually.
It's private to the extent that it's not totally owned by the government like it used to be under Mao.
No, but
there's
the
some
government doesn't like what corporations doing, they just shut it down.
Well, you've got to abide by the government. It's government control of corporations, which is what fascism is. Government control of capitalism is fascism. Okay?
Any type of...
Because communism would be the government controlling the means of production. The government owning the means of production is communism. But if the government heavily regulates private means of production, that's fascism. Because that's what Hitler did.
Well, that's National Socialism.
Well, it's
Yeah.
fascism.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's what National Socialism, that's what Mussolini had too, fascism. He invented the term. Where it's just authoritarian to the point where the government heavily regulates the businesses, but it doesn't outright control them yet.
And
Which is probably inevitable.
but I told her China is a bigger threat to this country than Russia ever will be. But Russia, on the other hand, excuse me there, Putin keeps on talking about, and might even have already backed out of the world banking system.
Well, it'd be hard to do any transactions if you did, but I'm sure that
If they get the gold, that's the whole thing with developing a gold standard.
well, that could be one of the reasons why they want to go to war with Russia so bad, because they don't want them to back out of the New World Order banking system. BRICS banks, where did the BRICS banks go? See, it didn't really go anywhere. That was an alternative.
It's trying to go
It's
someplace.
trying, but the trouble is
You've got the oil dollar is so doggone strong right now, and everybody is banking on it so doggone much. The Rothschild system is up and running at a fever pace, and actually, if we lose the standard, if the United States loses the standard and we turn into a debtor nation because we owe so much to everybody, the whole world goes into recession and depression.
Right.
And so Rothschild's got a stranglehold with their system.
No doubt.
That could be changed if something like the Russian system, whatever you call it.
Well, if Russia and America, see, they don't want Russia and America teaming up as allies. Russia's not the Soviet Union. That's what we got to keep telling ourselves. It's been a long time since the Soviet Union. A couple of generations of Russians have grown up. 80% of Russians now poll to believing in God. They have a religious belief now.
Oh, they're very orthodox.
The resurgence of the Orthodox Church, and Putin has facilitated this, the reestablishing of traditional Russian culture, and they're trying to look at the Soviet Union as just a glitch in 1,000 years of Russian culture, because you've got 1,000 years of Russian culture.
The system is made trillions of defending the world from this communist takeover.
Well, the communists are in the West now. The communists are in the EU and America. And not
So
in
what I'm
Russia.
saying is.
But they do have their communist holdovers.
The system has made trillions of dollars in defending democracy, which they have no intention of
I'm not sure
allowing
what that means,
democracy to
defending
grow
democracy.
that much. But they have made trillions of dollars. And they have,
Cold
and
wars
so-
are more profitable than hot wars.
well, any war is profitable for these sons of bitches.
Look at the Cold War, man. They got all kinds of missiles and all kinds of stuff, and there was no war.
No,
Ultimately,
it was
there was no war.
mutually assured destruction that they kept on peddling. And
There were
yet,
proxy wars here.
Yeah.
They did get to blow things up.
well, the proxy wars just kept people scared and fearful that there was going to be a big third war.
Oh, yeah, it kept everybody in fear. It was great growing up and learning to duck and cover, and Ruskies could nuke us at any time, and that's what they were telling their poor people too.
Oh, yeah,
Little Americans are gonna nuke us at any time.
And they're going to
Yeah.
rape all your kids, and
Right.
they're going to do all these things
Sure,
because
sure.
the Americans are just these horrible people, and they kept Russian people locked up in this iron curtain.
Sure.
And so the Russian people didn't know much different. It's like
No, they had
Kim
Project TASS, and all they had
Jong-un
was
in Korea. He keeps those people locked up, and it's hard for them to look at anything other than what the state radio.
Well, you're not allowed to question anything, so you have to live in your mind. You can't publicly say anything that is different to the official narrative.
No, you can't.
And you can't legally listen to shortwave radio because you can't get outside signals. You're not
No,
allowed
they
to.
block
You're
them.
not allowed to listen to
And
anything
they block
outside of
cell
what the
phones,
government says.
they block everything. If they catch you with a cell phone in Korea, they'll put you in work camp, labor camp.
The entrenched, whatever you want to call them today, the leftists who are pushing all this stuff under Obama are still pushing it now. YouTube and Google and Twitter are going after the right, going after the Trump supporters with a vengeance. They're shutting them down. They're
Which is
defunding them.
why
They're
I'm
hiding their
so
stuff.
concerned about this bullshit that they're trying to do, Pai is trying to do with the FCC. Because if he has his way, Verizon and Comcast are going to own the internet as far as this country goes.
Well, now,
And-
see, I don't know, because you support net neutrality, which is Obama's attempt to take over the internet.
No, I support net neutrality as net neutrality
But
was
that's not what-
always said. to
Net
be.
neutrality is like save the babies. It's one of these phrases they use that is the exact opposite of what the legislation is. Net neutrality
Yes,
is
that's what I'm
government
saying.
censorship, which they're already doing right
They've
now.
already got so much control. If they can get the internet under their control
Yeah.
too, corporate
Well,
control,
Bannon's talking about regulating them like utilities.
that's what we should do.
Well, we've got to guarantee everybody has a free platform, because right now, YouTube is going after certain people they don't like their political views.
Yes, they
And
are.
if we
Did
don't
you know
support everybody's
what I
political
see on
views, they'll all be
YouTube?
taken away.
I see so much on YouTube that basically is either supportive of Trump
Yeah,
or it's just news about what, and it's not biased news.
yeah, but it
it's
doesn't
just
matter.
news.
Since like March, they've been rolling out this. First, they defunded everybody who they didn't like, and so
Yeah.
So it really devastated a lot of these Trump website or YouTube channels because they were making a living off of the YouTube channel. So they had to go to Patreon and try to get enough of their viewers to support them. And now they've created this panel with the ADL on it, who's going to designate who is a hate speech person and who isn't. And then they're going to not ban you, but they're going to take your video and put it in a space where nobody can find it unless they're specifically looking for it. You can't put any comments on it, and you can't put thumbs up or thumbs down on it. So it's going to exist in limbo land.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is,
Now, you
I
see,
mean, as a free,
when Bannon talks about net neutrality and wanting to treat the internet like
he's not talking about net neutrality, he's talking about utilities.
that. No, when I'm saying is when he talks about treating the internet like a public utility, that's what net neutrality was originally all
Well,
about.
I would rather see the internet free of government intervention, but I would like to see Google and Twitter and YouTube either busted up as monopolies or regulated in some way where if you're on it, you have the right to say things that are not violence encouraging.
That's
They've
right.
got to do this, and I will support the most communist to have a YouTube channel to say whatever he wants as long as he's not inciting violence, and I would support
I agree.
any racist of any race who wants to say his race is superior, because if we don't support these people, we don't support anybody. Everybody should have the right to say what they do as long as they're not promoting violence,
I agree.
and then everyone can agree or disagree
And
with what they
this
say.
is what, as far as net neutrality went, and
Well,
this
that
was,
would be nice if that's what it
this
was.
was treating the internet like a public utility.
Yeah, but Obama's net neutrality was, it had a lot of stuff in it that was not gonna help the internet, it was gonna shut it down. It was
Well,
gonna
you know,
the government gets
I
involved
was-
in stuff, it destroys it usually.
I was one of those people that voted for Obama twice.
Yeah.
Because he was a smooth talker, but
He is a
now
smooth
that he's
talker.
out of office, I see what he done. He did an awful lot of damage. And
He's
National
still doing it.
Defense Authorization Act.
Him
And
and
he-
Hillary are involved right now in this silent coup to try to delegitimize and bring down Donald Trump.
Yeah,
And it's sad because at the third debate, they were outraged that Donald Trump wouldn't concede defeat right there before the election. But I can see that after the election, they have not conceded defeat at all.
no, there's no reason for him to concede defeat when he is doing.
No, I mean Hillary, she didn't concede defeat. She's part of the resistance.
Hillary will never concede defeat.
Well, I know, but she, through Soros and Obama, they're trying to undermine this president. Right now, they sent out a letter, these Democrats sent a letter out to current and former generals asking them if they'll be involved in a coup. Now,
And-
I don't know why Trump isn't charging all these people with sedition and rounding them up.
Because this is the side of Trump that I still have, this is the part of Trump that I still have reason to not trust him for.
Yeah, well,
I think that Trump is a Rooseveltian type of a Democrat that would, he's the opposite side of the same Hillary Clinton coin.
well, he's a New York liberal Democrat at heart. He's not really,
Yeah.
he's not a conservative Republican.
No, he's not. And I think that he has, it's like I said to this woman today, everybody in Washington, including Trump, has got some dirt to hide.
I think Mueller would have found it if he had dirt. He's got a special prosecutor against
Well,
him.
they're finding
Allegedly.
stuff
Allegedly.
over and over again.
Allegedly, because a special prosecutor and a grand jury are not, they don't tell you what they're doing. They're supposed to be in complete silence. We could have 5 or 6 of them going right now, and if nobody's leaking, you wouldn't know about it. So we don't even know if these leaks about Mueller are even real, because it's the Washington Post or the New York Times, and it's sources close to or whatever say this, and it might not even be true, to tell you the truth.
I understand the concept of not divulging your sources because I'm a journalist.
Yeah.
And so you've got to protect
But
the
still, you
source
also know the
until-
credibility of these newspapers is not that good.
You've got to protect the
No doubt.
source until there's enough to say it's time to expose the
No
source.
doubt, but if you're a shady publication, you can fabricate sources. You can just fabricate it.
You see, the president, Donald Trump, he oftentimes speaks before he thinks, and that causes him problems. There would be no
Well,
problem
what he
at
is
this
he's
time
honest.
with, but there would be no
He's
problem
not
with
failed.
this Russia thing if he wouldn't have said, hey, Russia, if you're going to do anything, you know.
Russia,
that
if you're
open
out
the
there
door.
and you know where
That
those
open the door.
33,000
He's-
emails
but
are,
He's not a seasoned
I hope you
politician.
turn them over to our news media because they'd be very happy to find them. And that was a joke that they don't have a sense of humor.
No,
They don't have a
because
sense
it's
of
politics, and he's not a seasoned politician.
No, he's not a liar.
When he says stuff like MS-13, I want to see him eradicated and pushed out of this country. I definitely want to see that. But when he says, and I watched a cop, he was directly behind Trump.
Oh, he talked about you don't have to be nice to him, bang him on the head.
Yeah, he was directly behind
Yeah, I watched
Trump.
all the cops.
And this guy, he was on the left-hand side of Trump, behind him. And when he said that, this guy got this big snicker. He's a bad cop. He wants to
I
be
saw that cop.
able to go out and
Younger,
break
square
faces.
jawed guy, kind of
Yeah.
beefy, square jawed.
Yeah, he wants to be able to go out and break faces.
Well, you assume that. He could also been smirking, thinking, yeah, we can really get away
No.
with that.
He lit up when Trump said that.
Yeah.
He's a bad
Well,
cop.
in the whole context that Trump was saying, you just capture
No.
this guy, he butchered a bunch of people mercilessly with a machete, and you're supposed to handle
I
it with
understand
kid
the
gloves. That's what it
context
was.
because I watched that.
Yeah.
But I understand the context.
Sure.
But when he says that, what he doesn't realize is that politically,
No,
it's going to be
Yeah.
used against him.
he's not a, well, he doesn't give a shit. He's not a
But he
politician.
should, because when he doesn't give a shit, then that gives
Did you hear
all
him?
the
Well,
fake news and all this other shit that goes on.
Yeah.
It gives them all the ammunition they need to keep on stirring the
Maybe that's his point, because right now CNN is down in ratings below Nick at Night as far as popularity. They've sunk to the bottom. Maybe that's his intention, to make them look like such idiots.
If that's his intention, he's doing a doggone good job.
Yeah, it really is working.
But the thing is that he's, at the same time, he's making it hard on him, because they're gonna use this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
They used the same stuff
Yeah.
on Lincoln,
Yeah.
they used the same stuff, type
Yeah,
of
they're
stuff
nasty.
on Washington, they used the same type of stuff on
He
Kennedy.
ain't gonna change, though. He ain't gonna change. He
Well,
is who he
that's-
is. If
that's-
anything, he doesn't have a dishonesty filter like all of them. He just says what's on his mind, and it's not bad. He's not saying anything bad.
It's not that he's saying things bad,
He's
if you
just
give
not
somebody,
lying
if you
like
give
that.
yourself, your adversary, ammunition, why shouldn't the adversary use it against you?
He don't think like that. He's not a politician.
Well,
Right.
that's even in good business, Lee. That's even in good business. You don't give your adversary everything that's necessary to put you under.
And
in
they
any
haven't
way,
put
shape,
him
or
under
form.
yet. They haven't
No.
put him under yet.
That they.
No
he's got
other president would
Republicans.
have been, no other Republican would have survived
He's
this
got
honestly.
Republicans and he's got Democrats that want to see him gone.
Sure.
In any way that they can do it.
Sure.
He's got, because they're establishment and they're dirty. They're so doggone dirty.
We know it. We
And
know it.
so when he opens his mouth and puts stuff like this out, he's given his opposition the ammunition that they will use
Right.
if they can
No, I
to
agree
nail
with you.
him to the cross.
I agree with you, but he ain't gonna change. They keep telling him not to tweet, but I love his tweets. I love him when he puts out stuff.
There's nothing wrong with tweeting. There's everything wrong with, if I was, if somebody said, we're gonna hang you because we don't like you, Dan, I would say, okay, you get the rope around my neck. I am not gonna put it on my neck. I am not
You're not
doing
gonna
it.
help.
I have no intention of helping you to hang you.
Well, yeah, but he's one of these guys where they're saying, we're the boss and you can't do what we say you can't do. And he's like, fuck you, I'll do whatever I want. The
I understand
consequences
that.
will be the consequences.
I understand that. But you see the consequences because, I listened to this new immigration plan that they've got set up. I agree with it.
Yeah, 70% of the Americans polled agree with it.
And not only that, you and I talked about doing the same doggone things.
Sure.
When I heard what's his face talking about it on TV, the guy that was talking about it.
Stephen Miller.
Yeah, when I heard him talking about it, I thought, geez, what did Lee do? Did he call them up and say,
No,
this is what Dan and I are talking about?
This is kind of like Jeff Sessions' proposal for the last 10 years. And Stephen Miller used to work with Sessions. He was on his staff. And they worked together on it. This is what they've been wanting to do. And again, now McCain was saying as soon as he gets back, he's resurrecting the Gang of Eight, and they want to have amnesty. They want to go back to this amnesty and unlimited immigration thing again, and the American people don't want it.
Because McCain is bought and owned by the same criminal organization.
Right. The swamp ain't giving up. But look, we've already talked about how the first 20 years of a century, by the 20 years in, you kind of can determine how the rest of the century is going to go. If at least it's been true since like 1800 to 1820. 1800 they were wearing short pants and ruffles.
Yeah, and knickers.
By 1820 they had long pants and the beginning of top hats. They were beaver top hats, coats. Everything changed. They had steam engines. They had the beginnings of railroad, and you could see that that's where the century was going to go. Railroad, telegraph,
industrialization.
yeah, the big industrial stuff. The first 20 years in the 20th century, you started with that Edwardian era kind of, women's skirts down to here and everything. By 1920s, women's skirts are up to here. Everybody's got a car. Everybody's got a phone. Everybody's listening to radio. Suits, men's suits look pretty much like they do today almost. And you could say right there, 1920s, bam. This is the way the rest of the century is going to go as far as general technology and style. And it did. Cars, radio, phones, television is an extension of radio.
Consuming is out of almost out of existence.
What's that?
It did to the point of we consuming the environment almost to our.
Well, that's debatable. We're still here. And I saw a dead coyote on the road down here, a dead fox up there, and we got bald eagles sitting in where I work in the bell tower. So
I hear the coyotes around here all the time.
we didn't have coyotes around here when I was growing up. So, it is what it is. We didn't have bald eagles either. So, I don't know. There's all kinds of animal life in Chernobyl. So, I don't know, we'll see. I don't think we should be concerned about plastic because it breaks down in the ocean to where it's going to become small enough.
I agree with that.
That it's going to pass the blood-brain barrier. But, getting back to where I'm at, if you look at other movements in that time, socialism, as we have experienced it in the 20th century, started in the seeds in the middle of the 1800s with Marx and Engels, 1850s, 1830s, somewhere. They wrote the Communist Manifesto. And it started growing, and it became the dominant political system and structure of the 20th century. Socialism did in some way or other. And you could see that too, because of the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917. By the 20s, you could see politically, collectivism was going to be the predominant political movement. Okay? So, but at 1900, the capitalists were in reign. The big 1800s, what do you call them, the robber baron capitalists.
Yeah.
But by 1930, that's all kind of flipped after the crash. I mean, you can see they didn't want, what I'm going at is the 18th century, or the 19th century, the 1800s fought the 20th century right into the 20s. It was very turbulent, and all this capital excess brought in the Depression, and then the collectivists came in response to that. So right now, it's a reverse. The collectivists reached their zenith at the turn of our century, around 2000, But the seeds of nationalism and Balkanization of going back to local government started in the middle of the 20th century. You had Ayn Rand, and you had Whittaker Chambers, and you had certain Milton Friedman. You had these guys who were writing about the need to get away from centralized government and collectivism and go back to local government and get things smaller and closer.
Ayn Rand, as far as I'm concerned, she had a lot of stuff that I could say I could agree with, but she was a fucking lunatic.
Well, she was odd, but look at what she wrote, not her person. We're not talking about her person. And you could argue about her writings. All of her people were idealized. They were romanticized. They weren't real people. They were political or philosophical positions, and they were consistent in that, which no man's consistent in anything. But she was writing these novels to put forth political and economic and other philosophical ideas. It was always the individual versus the collective. That was her theme. The rights of the individual versus the domination of the collective. And it was always the protagonist was one man who was brilliant in his own, standing against a bunch of dullards who were a bunch of collectivists. That's the way her books go. But going back where I was, okay, I don't want to lose this, because if you see this, it's an inverse from the end of the 19th century, where the robber baron crony capitalism was in full reign. Capitalism was collapsing at the same time because collectivism was rising in the 20th century, the Bolshevik Revolution. But it fought, and it fought hard, and it got into the 20s before it finally broke that robber baron capitalism. And the collectivism started coming in under FDR. We started getting a collectivist approach to things, with a larger government doing things, and that went through the 20th century right up to where we are almost today. It reached its peak probably the Clintons, Bushes. It spilled into the 21st century, and it's trying to stay on, but the seeds of nationalism and decentralization are taking root in this group of people that are alive today, the younger group especially. And it's a reverse of the capitalists, whereas the robber baron capitalists were fighting into the 20s and then they lost. The collectivists now are doing the same thing. They're fighting tooth and nail to give up their collectivist power, and it might last to the 20s, but they're going to lose. The 20th century is going to be, the 21st century is going to be the century of decentralized power and of two-way communication instead of one-way communication, and be able to call out the liars and the schemers quicker, because we'll all be talking, and if they try to pull scams, they can't pull it like they could in the 20th century.
No, they can't.
They couldn't even do a 9/11 now like they did, because the technology has changed. Everyone's got a cell phone. There would be 1 million different images instead of one official image of what actually happened. And they can't pull that shit off anymore. It's just too hard.
I understand all of that. So when we talk about collectivism,
Yeah.
or socialism,
Yeah.
versus capitalism or whatever, we bump heads because there is such a thing as a capitalist or socialist economy, and there is such a thing as a capitalist or a democratic or socialist republic. They are not the same things.
Yeah.
No, they're not.
Korea is the Democratic Socialist People's Republic or something like that. They got both of them in there.
They're not the same thing. A socialist economy is people owning things rather than having a centralized owner.
No,
that's
that's communism in its purest form.
That's
Marx,
right. And
where there is no government, and everyone owns everything.
well, there is a government, because any society is either going to have a government or an anarchy.
Under pure Marxism, you reach a state where the dictatorship of the proletariat is no longer needed, and there is no government because everyone works, and then they go and get
That's the only thing that makes something like that not work, because if people are going to have a society, they're going to have a government to monitor or manage that society. If they don't, they have anarchy. Well, we have chosen as a people to have a government that supposedly is by and for the people in this country. Now, that doesn't say that we have to have a capitalist economy.
Well, yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
No.
because the rights of the individual under the Constitution are protected, and socialism is not the rights of the
I
individual.
just read the Constitution,
All right, all right.
and there's nothing in the Constitution
Right.
that relates to that.
No, but the
I just
Declaration of
read-
Independence says you have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That's right.
Which you don't get under socialist governments.
Under a democratic form of
No,
socialist.
we're not a
government.
democratic government. We're a republic of
But
states.
the Soviet Union was a republic.
Well, they said they were, sure.
The Hitler's Germany was a republic. The only time that republics don't work well is when you have a monarchy or an empire.
So you want a socialist republic?
No,
Like
no.
the Soviet Union?
No, I am saying that the difference,
You like Democrat. You like the sound of. Did you see any of the videos I sent you on Democrat socialism? I sent you a couple of them.
I know what the term democratic socialism means.
Well, Hitler had the Nazis
No.
are the national dem. They were
They
socialists.
were not, they were
Democrat socialists, weren't
they
they?
were a tyranny.
Well, that's
They
what socialism
were a
is.
dictatorship.
That's what socialism is.
No, if it's an economy, the economy simply means that rather than having one person own it all the people own it.
That's like all the people own the state land. Can you go out there and build a house on it?
No, because
You
they
don't
have
own it.
rules. Because they have, no, I do own it.
No, you
If I
don't.
have a government that I can support,
If you
That-
can't do
that
something
is
with it, then you
democratic.
don't own it.
I don't own the property that I have now. I never
Right.
owned my property.
Right.
The state has always owned it, and this is a
There you
capitalist
go.
economy.
No, it's
Uh,
not. It's a fascist economy.
No, we're supposed to be capitalist in this
Well,
country.
there's different forms of capitalism. Just like socialism moves further and further to total tyranny, capitalism moves further and further to total freedom. We're not in free
This
capitalism at all.
country has moved almost to complete tyranny already,
Yeah.
and we're supposed
Yeah.
to be in a democratic type of a republic where the people
Right.
have a voice,
Well, we
and
should
we
be.
no longer
No,
have
we
it.
don't. We're
That
in a-
is tyrants'
Yeah.
rule.
We're in a fascist country. The Democrat Party and the Republican Party are fascists
Yes, they are.
because they believe in
Because-
government control of private corporations.
No, it's
That's what
not so
fascism
much
is.
that they believe in government
Yeah.
control, it's because the government has been bought and paid for. Trump says he wants to get
Well,
rid
it
of
works
the
both
swamp.
ways.
It's been bought and paid for by a corporate monster
Yeah, they
that
moved
is
in and
bought
out of
and
it.
owned by a bunch of banker
Yeah,
elites
right.
that have created a
Right.
central banking system that has completely enslaved the world to their,
Right, but that's not laissez-faire capitalism. That's
No,
not
it's
a
not.
free capitalism.
that's exploitive capitalism.
Right, that's an exploitive fascist capitalism.
Well, you can have the same thing if you and I could say that we owned this country, that we had rights in this country and we owned this country, and that the company that we work for, we owned it, not somebody owned it.
Yeah, but if we don't own it literally, then what are we doing? We're gonna steal it from the owner?
No.
If we wanna start our own business, then we do own it. No, you're
that-
talking socialism still, that's stealing
I
other
am
people's
talking
property.
socialism.
You're talking about taking other people's property, basically.
No, I am not talking about
Well,
taking other people's
If you and I wanna own a
What
company, then we
corporation
buy one.
has the right to say that they can buy the mineral rights underneath, 3 feet underneath the property that
Yeah.
I am paying a mortgage on. What corporation can do that?
One that lives in a fascist country, because
Yes.
the government gives them the power to
And
do that.
so, our
Right.
government has
Right.
turned into a government full of tyrants.
It's a fascist, that's what I've been saying, we're fascists.
Yes, I understand that.
We are.
But what I'm saying, as far as socialism goes,
Well, your solution is more fascism.
no, my solution is not more fascism.
Well, what is it?
My solution would be, rather than having a capitalist economy that's out of control,
Yeah.
as we have right now,
We don't have a capitalist economy, we have
no,
a fascist.
we have an exploited
We have a-
capitalist economy.
We don't have a free capitalist society.
No, we don't.
Or you and I would be able to open up a business with hardly any problem and be in business, but we can't because the fascist government keeps you and I out of business
I understand all of that.
in favor of the
Where we
fascist
bump
favors.
heads is, where we bump heads is a concept that most people have when it comes to socialism versus capitalism in an economic form.
What is that concept?
Okay, the socialist concept is there is no direct ownership by an individual. We all contribute and we all own it together.
How does that manifest itself?
Well, it manifests itself in a good way until it is taken into, until a government, a tyrannical government takes it and says, no, we're going to pervert this just like we would with a capitalist economic
Right,
form.
so the problem is human nature. That's why socialism doesn't work, because human nature is not good.
Socialism,
It's a religious belief.
no, the socialism.
It is. It's a
What's
religious
that piece about that a lot of Christians say, if you have 2 loaves of bread and your brother needs one,
Sure.
give him one. That's socialism.
No, that's, socialism is the government coming in and taking one of your loaves and giving
That
it to someone.
is,
That's socialism.
if the government becomes a part of that.
You giving it is called charity. That's what
Well,
that's called.
that's what socialism
No,
is
socialism
basically all about.
is a government forcing you to give up your
No,
stuff.
that's a government that is
Well, show me
not,
socialism that exists without a government forcing it. Other than a small commune, maybe, and even they've got a governmental rule on things.
any for social form is going to have some kind of a government. If you don't, you have anarchy.
We've got
That's
socialism
all.
right now. I mean, you should be happy because we're very socialist. We're
I'm
fascist.
not happy with what's going on right now.
We're
because We're not
fascist.
socialist.
Yeah, we
We're
are.
not capitalist.
Yeah.
I agree with you. We're
All the
fascist.
programs we got, giving away my tax money to other people, that's not socialism? What is that?
No, that is a tyrannical form of government taking
Yeah.
and abusing.
Yeah, that's what I just
The
said,
rights of the
socialism.
people. But you see, we bump heads because you seem to think that the rights of people, okay, the rights of the masses of people don't count over your right, period.
Right, because masses don't have rights, individuals have rights.
But the masses of people in this country,
Who's
if
their
their
representative? You've got a
if
group
their
of people, they all think alike, huh?
if their government were to be run as it should, as the Constitution says that it should be
Yeah.
run, you would have self-rule, which would give individual rights.
Right.
Which would
Right.
give the person who wanted to start the company the
Right.
right to start the
Right.
company. And if the people in our form of government were to say, hey, we want to get together, the majority of the people in this country, because this is ruled through, this republic is ruled through a democratic form.
We democratically elect our representatives
That's right, the people elect.
of each state, they elect the representatives.
Yes,
And then each
and
state
so
votes on the
if
president.
this government will run properly, then the government would shouldn't be saying, I want your tax dollars to go spend on a foolish war
Sure.
and supporting people that don't want to work. They wouldn't be able to do
Sure.
that because the majority of people in this country would vote and would say, we don't want that.
Well, what if the majority do want it?
Well, if the majority does want it, then they must not want to live in a democracy. They
Well-
must want to live in a fascist state.
People want to live in a country that will give them free stuff, rather than a country that says, here's the playing field, and you're on your own. You make or break yourself.
Why is
People
it
don't
that-
want that.
Why is it
That's
that-
what freedom is. Freedom is, I live my life, and I'm responsible for myself,
That's right.
and if I fail or succeed, that's the way life goes. And hopefully there's charities out there.
We
Hopefully
had,
there's,
at one time, the Victorian era in England,
Yeah,
and the beginning of the Industrial Revolution.
yeah,
We had what we thought was a very representative and free form of government. And
I don't know
so,
if we've ever had.
if
because of the
you
nature of
went to
people.
work, if you went to work, and, you know, the right to work laws that we have today were even worse then, because the employer could say, if you're not going to work 12 hours a day,
Yeah.
7 days a week,
Right.
you're fired.
Also said, if you're a Negro, we don't want you. Sure, they said all
And we
kinds.
also had nothing to rely on
Right,
if a person lost their
Right.
job.
right,
We had nothing for a person that worked hard all their life
right,
to support their family,
Right.
nothing to retire on.
Right.
And so the majority of people got together and said, we
we want other
gotta do something.
people's money.
No,
That's what they
they
said.
said, we gotta do something
We
about
want
this.
someone else to pay for us because we are not
No.
gonna pay for ourselves.
We said, the
That's what
majority
they
of
said.
people said, we want some
Yeah.
kind of protection
Right.
when we don't have a job.
And who's paying?
And so unemployment was developed,
Right,
insurance.
right.
And
It's
who
called a
pays
Ponzi
for
scheme.
that? Who pays for that? Well, the employer and the employee pay
Right.
for it.
So the employer,
so-
rather than giving you that money in your wages, has to give that money to the government to cover other people who get fired or who lose their jobs.
Well, the only reason that the unemployment
I've never collected unemployment.
The only reason the unemployment has become such a boondoggle
Because of
is because of a corrupt government
Well,
saying we're going to twist this
government
around
is
and
people.
give people
Right.
that don't want to work.
Right, that's why I'm opposed to socialism, because see, at the core of it, like we talked about, is a belief in human nature. I can ask a person, what do you believe human nature is, inherently good or inherently bad? And by their answer, I can tell you whether they agree with socialism or not.
I believe the human nature is to be both good and bad, and to
Right.
be confused as hell as to which decision
What
we're
is
going
it
to make.
inherently? That's the question.
Both good and bad.
It's easier to be bad than it is to be good.
All animals on, no. It's easier to be bad when you have a bad environment to be bad in.
What, it's easier to be bad based on your environment or anything else than
We've
it is
been
to be
taught
good.
how to be bad for
You
over
don't have
6,000
to teach
years.
nobody how to be bad. You gotta
We've
teach
been
them
taught
how
how
to
to be bad for over 6,000 years.
be good. You don't teach nobody how to be bad. They do
Because
that on their own.
there was, at one time, there was no such thing as good and bad. It was just, this is how I survive. Now, we
That
have
depends on whether
created-
you
we
believe
have
in man
created,
creating God or God creating man.
we have created,
I haven't. You might have.
no, we have created in our society
You know.
the goods and bads that we live in with.
Well, there are-
Because
some
if
things are
I am
universal.
starving to death and I am old man and I'm starving to death, come on, get real. I want to live just as much as you who's got it all the food. So I'm going to try and take the food, like it or not.
Came and asked me, I might give it to you.
Well, yeah, but if you don't, I'm going to take that food, like it or
Well,
not.
then I would shoot you like it or not, and then you wouldn't have any reason.
That's right. And so, we create rules and we say, it's bad to do that, which it is, And yet survival says that it is good.
Yeah, but you paint up a good scenario with that old man who's starving. What about the young guys who form a gang and just go around raping and pillaging because they can get away?
No, when that happens, that's wrong.
It doesn't. Well, there you go. Who
But
said
you
it
see,
was wrong?
it's human nature.
Who said it's wrong? They're just
human,
surviving.
It's human nature to band together to survive. And then we carry that and we pervert it a little bit further and say, hey, we can survive better if we go out and rape and pillage.
Civilization is what teaches us what's right or wrong. Or else we
Well,
would just
experience is what
marauding
teaches us right and
that. When you're marauding barbarians, that's all you are. You're just going around raping and pillaging because you're barbarians. But as you become civilized, especially under a Christian influence, you learn what's good and wrong. You don't always do it. There's going to be wicked people. That's why when people say, you know, well, the church, they did this, and look at all the bad stuff. Well, there's wicked people. Jesus said that the kingdom of heaven is like a guy that throws a net out in the ocean, and he just hauls it all in. And at the end, he'll sort it out. But the church is a wide net, too. It's like, whosoever will may come. Come on in. Come on into our covenants, whether you're good, bad, or ugly, or whatever, and God will sort it out in the end.
We've always looked for a way to explain what we didn't understand.
Well, now see,
At one
just
time-
by saying that, it shows that you're thinking in an evolutionary way.
Well, I probably am thinking.
Well, if you don't think in an evolutionary way, then that is not a statement that's even true. If you're a devout Muslim wouldn't say that. They would go with the Old Covenant,
Well, which is
first
one
5 books
one
of Moses.
It's one of the reasons that I question religion.
Well, who's to say that evolution is not part of a religious belief anyway?
Evolution, as I see evolution, it's the creator and creation at work.
Well, then you do believe in a religion. This just includes evolution.
I don't believe in a religion because I have no religion to believe in. Nobody has
You believe
ever
in a
formed,
Darwinian form of creation.
nobody has ever formed a religious belief along the lines of how I believe. So I can say that I have a belief, but I can't say that it's a religion because it doesn't have a lot of people. Well, I'll take that back. There's a lot of people who do think.
There's a lot of people think like that. They might consider themselves spiritual, but they don't know what they're spiritual about.
Well, I know what I'm spiritual about. I'm spiritual about the Creator.
But it's a creator that you've got to make up in your own mind. It's based on what you think.
It's not something that I've made up in my own mind. It's something that I talk to a lot of people with and I come up with.
Right. That's what I said.
Yeah, well, you can say that it's made up in my own mind. Fine. I've made it up on my own in my own
Now,
mind.
see,
but every religion that's out there has been made up in somebody's mind.
Well, maybe.
But we say that it's divine
Right.
inspiration.
Every religion out there claims they have a divine
You see,
revelation.
I could say that when I talk about my friends, going to my gatherings and stuff like that, I could say that God has told me.
You could. A lot of people
Yes,
do.
I could.
Yeah.
I could be a David Koresh.
Yeah.
I could be anybody.
Anyone who hears God or somebody talking
And,
to them.
you know,
Right.
and so I could say that I'm divinely inspired.
Sure.
And I don't, because I'm not divinely inspired. I am inspired by what I believe and I think as an individual.
Right.
When people watched the sun, they thought the sun was God.
Well, some did. Not all did.
Well, primitive people thought the sun was God. Without the sun, they couldn't see. It was dark, and nothing grew, and the sun provided the light, and all of a sudden we got the light.
You know, if you read different stuff, you have different understandings of that stuff.
So-
Because the Vedas don't say that that's the way people thought. Or even if you read the Book of Jasher, the Book of Jubilee, or even the Bible, it's more like God created man, and man knew what was going on. But that man lost this connection with God, and over the years,
Man lost the
man lost
connection.
this understanding of God, and also the understanding of creation, because 2,000 years goes by after Adam, and who knows if that was even true or not, they started saying. Well, that might not even be true.
Man lost his connection with the Creator
Yeah.
when man's ego started thinking that man was the Creator and could
Well,
do better.
The Bible has it as where they disobey God, but it's the same thing. They take it, they say, I will be like God.
Yes,
Right.
and we are like God in so many ways.
Except that we don't always do right. God always does
No.
the right thing.
No.
That's our difference. We can choose right or wrong, and we don't always choose right.
And there we can disagree too, because I look at God as a divine and a wonderful creator that I can't explain, that creates through experience, just like I do. It's just God, this creator, has created a lot more than I have, and probably always will. And so,
I don't think you've created anything, have you?
me,
Yeah.
yeah, I've created thoughts
Well, do you create those thoughts? Where do they
Yes.
come
from my head, so I must be creating them.
from? Yeah, I don't know. Buddhists would say no. Buddhists would say
I
thoughts
know
come
what
in and
Buddhists would
thoughts
say.
go